and the first, and here we go with Paul George. Slithery move, and he puts it up so smooth. George sees how they have Caruso. Merging with his energy, Kuzma bobbles the ball, picked up by the Clippers. The other way, George.
Led the NBA in assists at 10.
First time in his career he led it in the NBA in that category. He's got two. Batum with the rebound. Nicholas Batum in the middle. It goes off for George. Works on Davis, and a short shot is up and picked up inside by Paul George. George with a three. That's Zubac gets the loose ball. And Paul George the other way. Driving right by Kuzma, takes it up and puts it in.
I mean, look how effortless this is. Just goes right by Kuzma.
When they signed Kuzma to that contract, they've gone 9 of 18 combined from the floor. They've got 26 points combined. Off the bench, this is how they envisioned Harrell to play. And a minute to play as we go toward the final stretch of the third quarter. George, three. He's getting hot now. Paul George has got 20. Timeout taken. It was Leonard is resting with 22 points on the bench. Paul George is getting hot. He puts up another long shot right.
And that big contract right before the season.
Paul George is hot. Kennard and George and Zubac. Puts on the brakes, puts up a three and knocks it in. Pretty four starters out there, and Lou Williams, who off the bench has tonight put in 9. George got it again. Paul George hits another one.
Ibaka can't push it home. Jokic fighting. Batum winning. Corner three. Rims in for Paul George.
Zubac, Jokic is a monster. You need bodies for him.
George fading away. Paul George with 10 points in the quarter. Jokic lost the rebound. 3 nuggets there, and Denver ends up giving the Clippers another chance.
And they always make you pay. They make you pay.
George step back three is good. 21 points for Paul George. George jumper is good.
The Clippers had an opening night win over the LA Lakers by 7 and a road win against Denver by 13 in Game 2 on Christmas night. Only 9 total offensive rebounds in the first 2 games. Dallas just grabbed one but didn't do anything with it, as the reverse layup is scored on the drive to the basket by Paul George.
Getting inside, finishing through the contact.
10 points by Richardson, 9 from Luka. So they've got over 60% of Dallas's offense. Paul George, Richardson defending him. George tried to overpower on the post up. Got it to go.
He's been in international competition since his teenage days. George finds a seam, drives the lane. Oh, reorganizes in mid-flight and lays it in and cuts the lead down to 4.
With all the bodies and hands in action, that's why dropping it or laying it, throwing that lob pass, they can find it that way. When you try to shuffle it off, it's hard to find it in the owner's hand.
Kennard inbounds to an unaware Ibaka, but he makes the recovery. George for 3, 10 trees for the Clippers, 80-58. But every time he's on the floor, he's going to make the right decision. Here's George for an open 3. Book it. 88-64 Clippers. A quiet night so far for Paul George, but 4 of the 5 starters are in double figures. George, one of them, has 15, give him 18. 7 minutes off his first quarter clock, 19-16. 2 playoff teams, no doubt, crossing blades here early on in the season. Paul George for 3. George ISOs on Lillard, loses the ball, gets it back. Lillard loses his footing. That frees George for a second consecutive.
Offbeat a little bit in regards to their cuts, would then tend to peel back a little bit.
George, a graceful glide to the rim, and the Clippers lead 98-7.
So it's just a continuation of other coaches on the bench. They didn't look at it as anything different. Once they knew, like Paul George knew that was going in.
And the rebound by Kawhi. Paul George has it. He'll pump up a 3, and the first bucket down for Paul George. Kawhi dances out in front of Conley. We hit the 3-minute mark, second quarter. Paul George, open, hits it.
That's a deadly combination when you post Kawhi Leonard up.
Paul George double pumps. Did not score in the third. Paul George has it in his hands. Gobert jumps out on the perimeter. Hand is up, the shot is down. And just like that, Thurl, 1-point game in Salt Lake. Ball by Conley, the inside shot by Gobert. Kawhi, Paul George, the three, good.
Good ball movement here, sets up the open shooter in George, who's able to knock down the three.
Yeah, he's on a mission. Up and knock down that 10-footer.
Here is Reggie Jackson. Played just 3 minutes there in Salt Lake City and was scoreless. The Clippers an opportunity to get one more bucket here to close out the first. George on a catch and shoot, lets it go and knocks it down to end the first.
He's that well, hoping maybe they can continue that, to give the Suns some opportunities to get back in it. Except
George
that
makes
guy.
it 7 with this Clippers team. Also, EJ, is just a little reminder to the Suns. It's like, okay, welcome to being one of the 100. Monty Williams telling DeAndre Ayton, stay down, stay down. Batum backs up, looking for the 3 points.
Hand up.
And just a tough bucket right there. You can't ask for better defense from Booker, hoping to provide some cooling effect defensively. George on the spin inside, gets the defense again by Devin Booker, but the loose ball rebound comes out to George.
He's not missing anything.
Ayton got the tip in, but a bucket nonetheless. 15's the magic number, and Paul George.
Oh my.
14 on the shot clock.
Dario's got to stay at home here.
Paul George with the step. Ayton back on the floor with 5 fouls. George right to the rim. George with a game high 36. Rising up for the deep three over Ayton. Got it.
Back to George. Good closeout by Lee. Great defense by the Warriors, but wow.
Need to free him from the blitz and need to rebound a little better. But overall, guys, Steve Kerr told me that he's actually, quote, very pleased with how they've been playing, Mark.
George to the basket in traffic. Couldn't cash. Got it back, though. Going against the rookie Wiseman. And George really earned that bucket. Basketball with Donovan Mitchell. I'll start with the Utah Jazz. George from deep. Butter. Nothing but net. Leonard again here. Coming off the screen. To an open Paul George. Paul George hotter than fish grease here in the first half. You never asked me who would control it.
No, too late, too late. That's a win for Patrick Beverley.
Sure is. Especially if Paul George knocks that in. Which he does. Boy, Oubre is really out of sorts. Cross court, Paul George rising up. Fouled and one. Count it. Golden State hasn't led since it was 3-2. Paul George with the mid-range jumper, good.
Leonard comes away with his first rebound. 4:14 to play in the first quarter. George for 3.
Tough
Got
shot. Right, that's a tough shot. Great defense that time by
Lou Williams out there right now for Ty Lue. Leonard driving. Nice touch pass from Kennard. George holds the finish with half a second and knocks down the 3. And the Clippers cut the lead down. George, count the basket and send him to the line for the old-fashioned 3-point.
And sometimes you do need that default veteran player to be a great voice.
Mentioned it going to break. The Bulls have hit all 4 of their shots. Clippers are 5 for 6. This is George for 3. They are 6 for 6.
It's not as difficult as it may seem.
Paul George unloads a 3. Book it for Paul George. He has 22 and has 5 of a kind here. Great defense by Lou Williams. And he sends it forward to George with White to beat. Bouncing into defenders and leaves it in. Clippers by 3.
Don't allow him to get it up.
That's an interesting point. I know that in Doc Rivers' first year, Ty Lue was on the bench. The Bulls putting up the second best shooting performance this season. Philadelphia had a game in which they